Investment advisory services are offered through Fusion Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The firm only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. SEC registration is not an endorsement of the firm by the Commission and does not mean that the advisor has attained a specific level of skill or ability.
Welcome to Navigating Retirement with Rick Durkee.
And welcome into the program. This is Navigating Retirement, brought to you by Charleston and the Low Country's resource for a common sense approach to planning for our financial, investment, and retirement future. He is president and founder of the Coastal Financial Planning Group. Rick Durkee with us once again. Rick, welcome back in.
Hey, Peter. You know, I like to every once in a while think of Saturday Night Live. I'm Rick Durkee and you're not.
Yeah.
Chevy Chase used to do that a lot. Anyway.
Live from New York. No, but we are far from it. We are down here in the Holy City, Charleston, the Low Country, broadcasting to savers and investors who are taking their planning and their financial future seriously. And Rick, unfortunately, a lot of people are not.
No, that's true. That's true. But we're broadcasting worldwide, and we're Coastal Financial Planning Group, been helping people along the coastal Carolinas here for years. And now we're branching out because everybody is, right? We're all going virtual. We'll help anybody, anywhere, anytime, anyway. So, hey, just give us a call, 800-491-6220 anytime, and we'll make sure to help provide you additional information on today's topics.
That's right. In-person reviews, those are being conducted there at the Coastal Financial Planning Group, or virtual reviews. Literally anywhere in the world, you can conduct these through the ease, the convenience, the safety of technology. And again, the number 800-491-6220 if you'd like to get started, or you'd like any of the material that's going to be discussed on today's program. You can always also visit the website, cfpgroup.biz. cfpgroup.biz is the website. Lots of links to previous editions of the podcast, resources mentioned on the program. Today, Rick, on the show, going to be talking about the specific goals of and risks addressed with a specific retirement income plan. And I think that, Rick, we all have investment goals and expectations, and they're often defined by kind of the questions of, do you expect to beat market performance in good times? Do you expect not to lose in bad times? Do you want to take on the full risk of the market? That's kind of the investment conversation, right? But the retirement income conversation needs to be very different. And perhaps it's something that not enough people have had.
Yeah, and you use a key word there, Peter, defined, all right? We like to define our outcomes, right? We'd really like to figure out how we could invest and get the returns that we want on a consistent basis. Sometimes that might be difficult without proper planning, but the key here is that we make sure that we look at our defined outcome income plan first. We had a great topic on this at our Retirement Planning Summit, the 6th annual. People can access that information online, still on demand. But when you look at your income planning, if you define that, your expectations first, you look at your budget, you look at your income, you look at your expenses, you look at different goals and objectives, and you put that into a format where you can actually project out what retirement looks like in the future. Now, I will say this as a disclaimer right away, Peter, the income plan is going to change. That's the one thing that is going to change consistently throughout retirement is your income plan, because things are going to change, expenses, income, everything, inflation, risks, all those things. But starting with that base income plan and then deciding what financial tools need to give you the outcomes that you're looking for, help you to define what you're looking for in a income plan for retirement.
So should we be asking the same sort of questions, Rick, even though it's a different phase of our financial life, as the investment plan was often defined by what those expectations are? You're talking about defining the outcome with income. Shouldn't we be having more specific conversations about what those expectations are? I expect to be able to generate a steady stream of income throughout retirement. Or I am comfortable with my income fluctuating with the market throughout retirement. Or I expect to need the same income for living expenses even in down market years. And then once we sort of gauge what our expectations are, being able to, from that, then structure and define the outcome for our income plan.
Yeah, when we look at any kind of financial planning, we want to evaluate what are the risks that you may have to this completion of this plan, to reaching your goals as far as your defined outcome, and then making sure that we're addressing any of those risks and potential issues with opportunities. And we always want to look for opportunities for improvement in this defined outcome planning process for our income plan in retirement, because then we're going to take advantage of changes. For example, tax changes, inflation changes, any of these risks that we may have in retirement. We want to make sure we address those along the way and find the opportunities that will always be there when we address these risks up front, not behind the schedule, not after they happen, but proactively before they happen.
Rick, when you're saying defined outcome, you're talking about knowing the results. We know ahead of time what the results are going to be for our retirement income. And I think that that's probably comforting, gives us a little bit more confidence in retirement, understanding what our results are going to be. It's not something that's typically talked about in the investment world when we're taking risk. No certainty of what the results are, but with that defined outcome, knowing the results for our income plan in retirement, that really helps retirees address a lot of the more common retirement risks.
Peter simply stated our parents and grandparents did not have to worry about defining their own plan because it was defined for them. They had pension payments, they had Social Security, they had these income streams, they had cost of living adjustments that they could plan on, and they could do a budget and say, okay, this is my income, these are my expenses. And oftentimes they had money left over for savings because they had more coming in than what they had to spend. So that's why they were called the wealthiest generation. Now, the boomers and beyond, as far as future generations, the onus is on them. They have to plan this income plan and how to withdraw out of that pool of money that they made contributions from, called their IRA or 401k or whatever the retirement sources are for income. And they need to make sure that they address all the risks that they face throughout retirement.
Well, let's enumerate some of those and explain a few of them, Rick. Market risk, certainly a big one that we worry about. Withdrawal rate risk. Am I taking too much out of my lump sum and my retirement savings? Sequence of returns risk. What happens if there are down years in the market? And perhaps the biggest one of all, that longevity risk. And people don't say, hey, I'm worried about living too long, but people say I'm worried about running out of money in retirement. So those risks are really the top things that are addressed through a specific income planning process and having that income plan in writing.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. And let's go back over these risks really quick. So each one can be addressed. Again, if we look at the risks, we look what issues they could potentially cost us, and then look for opportunities to address them, we'll have a sound plan. We'll have that defined outcome plan for our retirement. For market risk, many people say, well, we can't control the returns of the market. If we could figure that out, we'd be great. Well, the shift now goes to income in retirement. And if we use products that have defined outcome with their income, now we're not worried about market risk anymore. And then we're addressing that second risk that you requested or that you mentioned, called sequence risk, because we're not in the fluctuations of the market while we're withdrawing. And then withdrawal rate risk. Withdrawal rate risk is how much money should I take out of this pool of money so it lasts as long as I do? Because that's my number one fear in retirement, is making sure my money lasts long enough. So having this, income plan in place again is going to address those three risks. And then that leaves one more for us: longevity. Longevity risk, Peter, that's one we can't control other than maybe our diet and exercise and how well we take care of ourselves, but typically it's hereditary. Our parents might have lived longer. We might need to plan on a longer retirement, but the bottom line of longevity risk is the fact is we are living longer, and longevity risk is that risk multiplier. The longer we live, the more market swings we'll see up and down, the more sequence risk we might be subject to, and our money might run out if we live into our 90s or perhaps 100.
Rick, when we talk about defined outcome income, giving a parallel example here, people really appreciate Social Security. It's one of the cornerstones of retirement planning. And the reason why it is so valuable and so appreciated is because it has that defined outcome. So long as we work and continue to get the same kind of income until specific dates, we know with relative certainty, within a slight range maybe, what our Social Security benefit is going to be. And then all of those factors that you just mentioned, all of those risks, market risk, withdrawal rate risk, sequence of returns, and longevity, Social Security is not affected or impacted by those.
By
And
any of those.
that's what we're talking about, recreating with more of your money and really to satisfy more of that income goal.
Yeah, Peter. And now this is going to go back to our income allocation discussions. If we go through this process of defining our needs in retirement, our income needs in retirement through this defined outcome income plan, then we're going to see, are there gaps? Are there periods of time in our retirement where maybe Social Security and our other assets are not providing enough income for us? So we fill those gaps. We figure out from what pools of money we need to pull that money to be able to create the income to fill the gaps on retirement and our retirement needs, our income needs. Now, if you go out all the way through retirement and go out to your 90s or 100 or beyond, which is realistic for a lot of today's retirees, you know, a 20, 30 year span of retirement, and you look at it from that standpoint, now we might see that once we've even filled those income gaps, that we might have money left over, you know, when we die. And if our objective is to spend every last dime before we die, we need to turn up the volume on the income. And we could do that if we look at that income plan on a regular basis and make the adjustments I talked about earlier.
Yeah, not a set it and forget it thing. It's always going to be changing, evolving day to day, month to month, year to year, decade after decade. In retirement, our situation is going to change. The world around us is going to change. And that's why having that specific written retirement income plan and then having it reviewed and updated on a regular basis with an experienced, qualified professional is so important to your success and your confidence into and throughout retirement. If you'd like to sit down with Rick Durkee and the team from the Coastal Financial Planning Group, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-491-6220, 800-491-6220. And Rick, another reason why it's beneficial to have the help of an experienced, qualified professional is because sometimes math can be a little challenging. Figuring out how much income we need and what the impact is going to be and how much taxes we're going to be responsible for, all of that is really an in-depth process. It's part of the behind the scenes on how you design and structure and deliver that written retirement income plan. But I guess just for example, Rick, if we've paid no tax on our retirement savings during our working career, then what percentage of it are we going to be paying taxes on in retirement?
Yeah, and this goes back, that goes back to our income allocation again. From what pools of money should we receive this income stream, and how should we properly time it for our income tax planning? Now, Peter, there's, I'm sure, a lot of people out there listening right now that says, these guys are just talking about doing basic budgeting. You know, I can figure this out. I can figure out, you know, what income I'm going to have and what expenses I'm going to need to cover and all that. Well, folks, I'd like to share this with you. We're right here in the middle of a manufacturing belt in Charleston, South Carolina. We've got Boeing planes being manufactured right around the corner, Volvo cars and whatnot. And there's a lot of engineers that do the engineering for these firms. And you would think, you know, of course, they're very process driven. They understand what they need to do to keep those planes in the air or keep those cars safe, whatever it is. And so they go through this process every day at work to do that. But then when you get to the retirement income phase, when the planning phase starts for that, you're sitting there and you're scratching your head and say, they never taught me that in college. They never taught me that. Even I haven't even learned on my own because I was so busy doing what I was in my career. I don't even know what questions to ask to get this plan together. So I'm going to encourage you. We have several Boeing employees that are really in that retirement red zone right now that are working with us, several engineering type. and they all walk out with that income plan when they're done working with us, going through our 3-step review process. And they all breathe a sigh of relief. It's like, wow, this is something I don't have to figure out how it works. These guys at the Coastal Financial Planning Group have a process. They took us through their 3-step review process. They evaluated how are we going to look at our income tax planning, so we can do some tax forward planning and stop money slipping through the cracks and have some more income to spend in retirement. Number 2, they helped us develop that defined outcome income plan, and we did the income planning. And then number 3, they looked at risk planning and made sure that their income plan covered all the bases as far as what risks we face in retirement. And then they're promising us, hey, we're going to meet at least once a year to review this plan and make sure that your investments that are working inside of it are working as hard as they can for you.
Well, again, I think that all of that, Rick, it's got to be important to the individual. I know that it's important to you as the planner, but to understand that we want to make this the best time of our lives and we want to live with confidence in retirement. That's got to be a goal for us in order to understand the importance of this process. Yes, budgeting is at its core, but there's so much more that goes into it, as you just stated. And I think that's why the assistance, the help, the perspective and guidance of a qualified, experienced professional is so beneficial to you, ladies and gentlemen. You only have one shot at that ideal retirement. You don't want to do over. You're not going to get one. And smart people learn from their own mistakes, but we don't have that time or luxury in retirement. So let's do some proper planning. Let's be proactive about this process. And then let's continue to monitor and update the plan. And Rick, I think a lot of risks, a lot of potential concern and worry and doubt can be eliminated or at least minimized and certainly addressed through the process of proper income planning.
Yeah, so let's make sure that we sit down. You mentioned it earlier, Pete. Let's go through, let's make sure your math is proper, because truthfully, math can be a 4-letter word, right? If it doesn't work out in our favor. So let's go through this planning process. Let's analyze the math of your individual plan. Let's make sure we look at Social Security, how it's integrating into the plan, what time we take it, how we maximize it to minimize taxes, the different planning tools we can use at the Coastal Financial Planning Group to do that. And let's put together a plan that will suit you and your loved one's needs to cover you all the way through retirement and beyond, if that's part of your legacy plan for after retirement. So the income plan, the defined outcome income plan, always helps us do that.
Well, that is part of the program today. We have a big offer and a little ask. The big offer is if you would like to sit down with a qualified professional, with Rick Durkee and the team there at the Coastal Financial Planning Group, pick up the phone now, give them a call. There is no cost. There's no obligation. There's truly no downside for placing this call and going through the 3-step review process. 800-491-6220, the number to call, 800-491-6220. That is certainly the big offer of the program. The little ask, visit the website, cfpgroup.biz, cfpgroup.biz. There's lots of additional resources, tools, calculators, previous editions of the podcast. We talk specifically about that defined outcome income planning, how to navigate up markets, down markets, sideways markets, all of the risks associated with planning for your financial future. Specific episodes. Go educate yourself. There's lots of tools and resources there. cfpgroup.biz, or give a call now for that big offer, the complimentary 3-step review. 800-491-6220. That's 800-491-6220. Rick, we always appreciate your time here on the program. Thank you for being the guide to Charleston area savers and investors.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to our listeners. We look forward to having you back at a future episode. And remember, you don't have to wait for next week. You could just tune into some older episodes at cfpgroup.biz, and we're there for you.
Catch more of Rick Durkee and Navigating Retirement by visiting cfpgroup.biz.
While we believe the information in this broadcast is reliable, we cannot guarantee its accuracy. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and are not intended as investment advice or solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. Please consult your financial professional before making any investment decisions. Investment advisory services are offered through Fusion Capital Management, an SEC registered investment advisor. SEC registration is not an endorsement of the firm by the Commission and does not mean that the advisor has attained a specific level of skill or ability. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.